All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Marissa Trew. I'm the senior content lead at Blokhaus, and I'm also the host of Tez Talks Radio. Today, we're going to be hosting a discussion. It's an entrepreneur roundtable with just myself and my guest here, and to talk about what to look for in a Web3 startup. So to answer that question, I have Bilal El Alamy, who is the executive chairman of PyratzLabs, and that's just one of his many job titles, as we're going to learn throughout this next 20 to 30 minutes or so. So to introduce yourself to the audience here, can you give us a bit of a general primer? Tell us about yourself, your background, and what exactly PyratzLabs is.
Sure. So hi, everyone. Thanks again for the invite. So I'm 30 years old. I'm a French scientist, like most of the people in the Tezos Ecosystem. I graduated in physics and applied mathematics, worked in research field, but also in the industry. Afterwards, I went to business school, went kind of the traditional track, worked for an investment bank, a consulting firm. But I've been always passionate about entrepreneurship. I created a union around entrepreneurship when I was a student. And very quickly after quitting my job, I created my first company, which was EquiSafe, which still exists. And about a year ago, I wondered how I could bring more value to the Tezos ecosystem. And I was pretty good in all the technological side, so I decided to create this startup studio dedicated to Web3, where we have this model, or where we invest in a company and we staff ourselves as CTOs in this company. And Dogami, the other company I founded, was part of PyratzLabs, and that's why I'm co-founder but also CTO of Dogami. So we handle the tech part of projects that we try to bootstrap and invest in.
But to go back to the beginning slightly, what actually brought you to the Tezos ecosystem in the first place?
It's Adrien Zera who brought me into Tezos ecosystem in the first place. Well, the answer is pretty much pragmatic. We were building on Ethereum. There was this huge scalability issues, and when we did our first project, in front of a member of the parliament, we've done some tests, and we saw that the gas fee was going to be very expensive. Otherwise, the transaction would take an hour to go, and we straight kind of saw the limitations of Ethereum. And I was wondering what other blockchain could answer those pains of scalability and gas cost. And after a discussion with Adrien Zera, he kind of convinced me to look into Tezos. That's what I did, and I never left.
And I did a bit of poking around PyratzLabs' website, and you described it as a solution to provide Web3 startups that are looking to build, fund, and scale.
Yeah.
So what are those solutions in general?
Yeah, sure. So for the build is like we help them build the project, and the advantage of the company we choose or we invest in is that she has like 5 tech guys pretty eligible on Tezos who have already put into production softwares that helps them, so that in about 3 months we're able to deploy the MVP and create a little bit of income. And basically, we call that proving the model. So if we're able to make some income and we see that there is some traction, we keep going on the project.
And so PyratzLabs is very specific as to Web3 or blockchain-based products or projects. So what is it that actually distinguishes these ventures or these startups against the typical tech startup?
There's many ways to answer that. Just before your question before. So the build is because we help them. The fund is because we invest. The acceleration is because we got a lot of network, network around potential partners, potential investors, and so we help them scale because we introduce them to this network so that they can get to the next stage. Then regarding your second question, sorry, what was it?
Basically, what distinguishes a Web3 startup from the typical tech startup?
Well, I think the focus around the community is even more important. So it's important to be able to create a brand, to create a community around your project. The tech side is even more critical, specifically if you have a token and the economy that needs to be balanced with the app. So I think those are two issues that are pretty important to tackle before you start any, compared to Web3 companies.
And do you find that the startups that actually approach PyratzLabs to start engaging with you are already fixed on the idea of developing on Tezos, or do you think they're coming to you for more advice and then you introduce them to the Tezos ecosystem and the merits that it has?
No, mostly more they're looking for advice. Obviously, we have this huge footprint on Tezos, which we're very known for it, and most of the companies we've built are on Tezos. So people tend to be attracted by the Tezos ecosystem, and that's where we try to build from. Afterwards, we're very pragmatical, and it also depends on. We don't force stuff on the founders. But yeah, it's a common decision, and 9 times out of 10, it's on Tezos.
And I think it also, what you have in your favor is that because this is still an early stage industry, you have a lot of the relationships and the understanding of the core technology before it kind of scales to a level where anyone can sort of plug in and play.
Definitely.
But then what are the benefits of a startup basically engaging with PyratzLabs versus going, the conventional startup funding route?
So before you get to the funding stage, you need a lot of requirements, and VC are both very aggressive in terms of the requirements that you need in order to fundraise with them, but they're also very challenging regarding the choice of Tezos. So we basically help them get ready to be in front of a VC. So that's the first thing. The whole part where we build and fund and try to reach for the scaling are very important. We work with the company between 3 and 5 months before we think the company is ready enough to be presented to investor. And then, fundraising is not just going to pitch a list of investors. There is a strategy to put in place, who to go first, who to go last, how to create kind of the inertia between the investors. And we have quite a lot of experience because regarding all our companies, we've done about 8 or 9 fundraising. So we're pretty familiar with the process.
Right, so you're well practiced in the traditional VC and funding space, as well as the blockchain technology and the core development space, and just kind of overlapping those two segments together to deliver these services.
Exactly.
So then let's dig a little bit more into the projects that you're currently supporting, because, for example, Dogami is a very big one. Can you tell us a bit more about what projects you're focused on at the minute?
Yeah, so we have 3 main focus in terms of areas. The first one is gaming, because we want to build around what we've done with Dogami. So leveraging the technology that we built, leveraging the knowledge in gaming and tokenomics and balancing tokens in a game. And it's also a good use case to foster adoption, and we've seen that with Dogami, because about 60% of our community downloaded a wallet and Discord for the first time for Dogami. And that was one of the main objectives we wanted to push. Another area, so we're building other games. Another area is decentralized finance, which is very important for both the liquidity of the ecosystem, but also of all the games. For example, it's important to have a sane DeFi ecosystem, to have a sane token price on the Doga token. So we're working on a bunch of DeFi protocols that compose together, and that will be also KYC permissioned, so just like AAV for institutional. And the last area is centered around marketplaces. So there are a lot of areas like marketplaces in gaming or in ticketing with Billy that we are trying to build. It's not the best moment to build marketplaces because there is no volume, but the idea is to build in order to get ready for the next phase.
Right. So especially in, I guess, what we can describe as a bit of an industry downturn, it's the time to focus on the core development of these products.
Yeah.
And you're saying that gaming, DeFi, and marketplaces are your 3 core pillars, or are these just the priority for the moment?
No, they're the priority for the moment because so first we're doing our investment out of our balance sheet. So we're not like a VC fund. It's our money, and we don't have as much money as the VC fund. So it's important to do very strategic actions when we invest this money. And what I call a strategic action is building companies that have a lot of synergies between themselves. And one of the main factors of decision whether we invest and focus on a company or not is that the number of synergies that it has with the other portfolio companies. And by design, it needs to have at least 2 synergies. So it needs to be able to work with 2 other companies from day one. So I'll give you an example. For example, Dogami worked with SmartLink because SmartLink is a decentralized exchange, and when we listed the token on SmartLink.
Right.
So this is kind of a synergy. It doesn't require us to be to compose with other, just a partnership where there is a mutual interest of working together.
So how many companies are actually under the PyratzLabs portfolio at the moment?
So right now there are 7 that are very well defined, and there are 2-3 projects that are currently being finishing of being defined. So by September, I think we will have 9 companies in our portfolio.
Do you find that there are more companies coming to you, or does PyratzLabs actively seek out and scout new potential projects?
We do a little bit of both, but it's not necessarily, none of them are the one who works best, specifically in those early days where the entrepreneurs are very young and they're really not sure of what they're doing. What we tend to do more is proposing the projects and syndicating a team around this project. And then, even though we initiated the project, we don't want more than 20% equity in the project because otherwise the company we hire doesn't feel it's their the entrepreneurs we hire doesn't feel it's their company, and we don't want to be. And the more company you have, the more involvement you have to be through time, and obviously we want to diversify and be working on several different projects to. Try, test, and learn a lot of stuff, and try to grow the ecosystem as quickly as possible.
And that actually leans tightly into my next question, which is, what are some of the key challenges that you face when it comes to either scouting out a project or developing these projects? Because you're starting very much from the ideation phase, where there's a lot of potential, but there's also a lot of potential for failure at the same time. So what do you keep in top of mind, and what are the key challenges that you need to address to actually overcome that?
Well, the first challenge in the recruitment of the founding team. It's very early days of the company. You never know what can happen, and you need to find people that are very resilient, that wants continuous feedback, that understand what they don't understand. So that they can, when you give them an advice, increment it and apply it. So it's very hard to find a founding team that has interests aligned with you through time. For me, that's the hardest thing. And I have 1,000 ideas I want to kickstart right now, but I'm not finding the right people to build them with us.
So what does the editing process look like to you? It's like, say you have a list of 100 ideas. How do you focus, or how do you focus your priorities there, and how do you decide which projects are perhaps for later and a never?
Once I have the list of what I want to do, and the list of the entrepreneurs that succeeded our hiring process, we try to match one of the project of our interests with a project of their interests. So that they were more involved and they can bring more value. And very humbly saying, we have quite a couple of successes. So it's convince someone to trust us is not the hard thing to do, because we have quite a track record. So people they're following the inertia. They trust you because somehow you were able to succeed a couple of things. So the convincing part is not the hard. The hard is finding the right people and then delivering the project through time.
So do you think that there is a talent shortage in terms of the appetite to build ventures that you sort of have in mind and pursuing, I guess, like a long-distance vision of what you want to create versus someone coming in with their own idea and saying, we're going to help you build your specific vision?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that because the truth is, how can I put it? Well, can you rephrase your question? I'm not sure.
I'm basically saying, given you're saying that a part of PyratzLabs exercise is to say that you have a general idea or a direction you want to go, and then you try pair that up with someone who's got the talent to actually see that through. How do you reconcile that against someone coming in and saying, I have a very specific vision I want to execute, and I want PyratzLabs to essentially support that specific idea?
I mean, we're very pragmatic, so if this specific idea makes a lot of sense and we believe it's the right person to do it, we prioritize it.
Right.
Very simply. Then in terms of talent, it's not that there is lacking talent. There's always a lack of talent, but that wouldn't be humble to say that. It's just that you have specific profiles who wants to be entrepreneur. It tends to people who just... So people who just left the school and are not married, they're more inclined to take risks. And then people who are a little bit older. So what we see is that the people who want to co-found company with us are about 25, 26. Those people, they're young, they're lacking experiences, and there is an incompressible amount of time so that they can learn the tricks of entrepreneurship. And you cannot force that. It takes time, more or less, but it takes time. So it's just, we are a bit impatient. That's why I told you that. But there is also the normal process of the intellectual reflection on the project and its environment to take the right decisions. And obviously it takes time.
So you're engaging with founders at a very nascent stage in their career. So when we zoom out a little bit, what's the timeline of the relationship between the founder and PyratzLabs? You mentioned earlier that you'll maintain a maximum of a 20% equity in any of these projects at any given time. Is that in perpetuity, or is there a deadline there? How do you stop? Do you ever stop engagement and just let it? Sorry, mumbling my words. Do you ever stop the active engagement or the active, I guess, control over the development of the project, and then you let it run with your 20% equity as passive?
Exactly. So basically, I can tell you the whole journey. The whole journey is that we have an idea, pretty much, try to find an entrepreneur, work about 20 hours with this entrepreneur to build what we call a data room. Of tokenomics, business plan, treasury plan, presentation, white paper, roadmap, etc. Once we build this data room, we have a pretty good idea whether the project can give something or not. At that moment in time, we create the company. So we take 7% equity, we invest 200K. With those 200K, we go to the French Public Investment Bank, and it kind of double our investments. So we have about 400K of budget for 12 to 14 months. With those 400K, we require that at least 100K is consumed in PyratzLabs, and that's where we staff ourselves as CTOs and CFOs. Right. So we deploy a team about 3 to, 7 people, depending on how quick we want to focus on the project. And the objective is to release the MVP as soon as possible. It takes about 2.5 months, 3 months to put into production the software. From there on, we start the fundraising process because we have a company, we have a team, we have a product, we're starting to make income. So we start the fundraising process. Once we do the fundraising process, we start a knowledge transfer. So we start hiring more and more within the company and de-staff people from PyratzLabs that we put on another company. So the budget is for 12 to 14 months. What we've seen is about 6 months, 7 months, we're able to fundraise for the company. So it kind of changed the scale of the company. It doesn't have any money issues and stuff like that. So we hire more and more. What we're trying to do is that about 12 to 14 months after we got in, there is one person left. And then the idea is that this person is destaffed. But then there is so we stay as board members in the company, and usually I take this position, and so I keep being an advisor to the company throughout time. But I'm supposed to be less and less involved. I'm way less involved in SmartLink. I'm way less involved in Les Arts, the art gallery that we've done in Barcelona. With Dogami, it's pretty different because we hold more equity than our normal model. And so I have to stay involved more in Dogami.
Right, so the peak activity happens within the 12 to 14 months of its incubation. And then after that, you're taking a more advisory role, or at least existing as a permanent board member.
Exactly. So always available to the company. The ecosystem is always available for the company. So it's just how proactive they are to keep.
Is that intimacy something that you foresee as a challenge as PyratzLabs scales and the number of companies that actually come under its portfolio?
Intimacy? What do you mean?
In terms of you have a very hands-on relationship with all the projects that are being incubated under PyratzLabs. But as PyratzLabs scales, say it gets a lot more funding and is therefore able to expand beyond the 7 current projects to say 70, how do you foresee scaling in a way that you can give each one the care, the tender loving care that
Very good question.
Need?
Very good question. So where I want to take PyratzLab, at least the studio activity. So I'm not on my own. I have like 2 partners that are very, very good in what they're doing, probably even better than me. But and when I am at Dogami's, they are in other companies. So we act a little bit like a law firm where we are partners and we mutualize the value we create in our respective companies. So the way I see it is hiring more and more very high-end people that can be autonomous, that can be mentors to the companies, that can be very operational in the company. And we have a new partner, deploys a new company, and we kind of try to scale like that by kind of sharing the value throughout time.
So obviously PyratzLabs sounds like a very promising place to start for a lot of people who are coming up with these fantastic new ideas that they want to build on the blockchain. But for those who are, I guess, shopping more generally within the accelerator, the incubator, the VC space, what are some of the things that you would like to advise them on what they need to be especially cautious of when they're engaging with entities such as yourself?
Well, when you're a young entrepreneur, you tend to be very naive. So what we try to do is just open their chakras so that they see the world as it is and not as they think it is. And I was also in that situation, and I kind of learned as I go, and where we're just trying to share this knowledge to the entrepreneurs so that they can grow as quickly as possible. Our main value is collaboration at PyratzLabs. Most of the company, they open source some technology so that the other company can use it. And when we built, for example, the marketplace of Dogami, it took us 3 months. But when we built the marketplace of Billy, it took us 10 days.
Right.
So yeah, we're improving how we build companies because the companies help themselves.
So in terms of you kind of helping shed a bit of light and wisdom onto this landscape so that people go into these situations with their eyes open, what are some of the green flags to look for when engaging with, an accelerator or an incubator or a VC fund? A positive sign.
A positive sign.
You mentioned collaboration as being a key one.
Yeah.
So what else would give you the confidence that you're engaging with someone that you can trust your project to?
Well, the track record that they had, in which space, the people they've been interacting, the funds they've been raising with. And I also believe it's very important to be local, to be in person. Like we took a 1,000 meter square of offices in the 17th arrondissement of Paris to incubate those people, to animate, federate the ecosystem. And I think it's important to be in person so that you can feel the vibes, you can interact straightforward with the people, and you never know who you can meet. So I tend to prefer in-person meetings and incubation or acceleration than being remote.
Right. So the primary green flags we've touched upon is a collaborative attitude, a proven track record, and actually close personal relationships. So then to flip that coin, what are the red flags that people need to be cautious of?
Full remote for me is a red flag because you don't create the relation with well, you don't create it as well as when you're in a funding process. I mean, there is a fund who's going to give you 5 million or 4 million or 2 million. He's not going to give you 2 million like that. He wants to spend time with you. He wants to feel you. He wants to see how you think, and so you create more bonding when it's in person. So that's the first thing. I don't like accelerators that try to industrialize the process. What we're trying to do is do about 6, 7 maximum companies per year so that we can still spend some time with them.
Right.
If you do like 200 companies like Brink or Bricks, I remember this accelerator, there's no quality, it's just quantity.
Right.
There's no mentorship, there's no truthful relation being built.
So in that, the boutique approach actually prevails, and that offers, I guess, a cap to the scalability of initiatives like yours, and understanding when you've hit that cap and just sort of maintaining that equilibrium.
Yeah, but it's a cap in terms of number of companies that we as humans can hold.
Right.
But if the company perform well, the value can still increase, and we can scale the value without scaling the team.
So we've only got about 3 or 4 minutes left, and I want to open it up to the floor if there are any questions that'd like to be asked. Okay, we've got one in the front. Sorry, microphone's coming your way.
Thank you guys for obviously sharing all those knowledge and very interactive question and answer. My question would be, since Tezos hasn't got any maximum supply, I believe, I wonder how do the company think is the good way to go for the long run?
Get your bakery and put your XTZ to hedge your inflation. I'm not sure I understand, I fully grasp the essence of your question.
Well, it's because I believe there is no maximum supply of Tezos coin. I wonder how is it going to be a good way to go in the long term for all your investors?
So what makes Tezos the most sustainable choice to build your venture on? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Because first of all, it depends how you build your income model. Not all the companies they win money in XTZ, but indeed most of the tokens are listed with XTZ, and so if XTZ goes down because of the inflation, your token can go down. And it's a different question of why Tezos. I mean, so if the question is why Tezos, I think the technology is great. I think also when you want to work with corporates, it's important for them to work with blockchain that is audited, and the Tezos Foundation is audited. So for corporates, it's very important. The ecologic side, the community is very close together. So it was definitely a competitive edge for Dogami to be on Tezos because the whole community knows each other, and from day one we had 20,000 people joining Dogami from the Tezos ecosystem and helped us develop. So the investors are more afraid by the lack of substantial growth in the community compared to Ethereum. But again, And that's what we tried to prove with Dogami, is that it's not the blockchain that makes the project, it's the project that makes the blockchain. Why did Ethereum became the most used? Because there were apps on Ethereum that were the most used. So it's just about building the next breakout dApp that will be used, and then everybody will talk about Tezos.
I think there's about 2 or 3 tweets in there.
And I just had one more question. So we've seen the stablecoin-like sector been very weak recently. Yeah. I wonder if Tezos is thinking maybe about creating a stablecoin in the future.
Yeah, there are a lot of projects regarding stablecoins, both algorithmic, both non-algorithmic. There is one here, USD Tez. There is UUs upstairs. You have Lug from the casino people that are building stablecoins. I think we need a proper lending protocol in order to start unlocking the liquidity of stablecoins, because today there's no liquidity on stablecoins. I'm so afraid of having stablecoins on Tezos because I don't know where I'm going to sell them. But yeah, we need proper lending protocols and more decentralized exchange. There are a bunch, but they're not yet very optimized in terms of liquidity. Yeah, the underlying technology that handles the liquidity is not the best currently on the decentralized exchange.
I think, yeah, let's take one more question in the front, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you selected teams or the projects because of certain synergies already being sort of in place. Do you then let the projects further develop themselves, or do you actively keep on creating a sort of flywheel between the projects, or how do you sort of balance that self-development versus you actively pushing them together or something like that?
Like I said, we're very pragmatic people. We don't want to force things. It's very important to argument and action. So obviously, proactively, it's important for us to continuously create synergies between the companies and try to explain them why it would be smart to do it. And to be honest, so far, I mean, it's just been 18 months. So, but so far, we've been recruiting. I mean, I'm very proud with the people we've recruited, and there is no one who, after a year, said, "Hey, fuck off, guys! I'm going to do on my own now." I mean, he spent such a good time for the past year with the teams, with the other teams, with me, that I mean, there is no reason for him to go, or to be a one man on his own.
Fantastic. Well, Bilal, thank you so much for your insights, and thank you everyone else for tuning in.